welcome in everybody. Thank you for joining us. My name is Kenny. If I hadn't met you already, I'll just introduce myself. So I'm Kenny. I'm a community manager here at Whatnot. Actually celebrating 3 years this month. So I've been able to see kind of like the wild growth and trajectory of this company from the inside, and it's been incredibly fun to be part of that and to kind of be able to bring that and then speak with our seller community at large, which is kind of part of what the community does, community team does. So the community team really focuses on building out programs that seek to educate and inspire, motivate sellers at scale so that they can, unlock their potential and be like successful Whatnot sellers. And so part of that is, we do webinars, we do IRL events. We have this account, which is called Whatnot Sellers. It's the official seller-facing account for Whatnot sellers on Whatnot. So if you don't follow this account, go ahead, drop it a follow. And we've got some really good shows like lined up. I know next week we're going to be talking. I've got a product manager that I'm going to be interviewing, talking about all things shipping. I know that shipping is a hot topic for especially newer sellers. So come through, hang out, learn a thing or two, ask some questions. Today I'm really, really excited. I got Ethan here. Ethan is owner of Animatasia, and he's gonna tell us a little bit about that. But basically, wanted to bring him on. He's got a really amazing story. And I just wanted to hopefully he could share his experience, kind of what his path has been on Whatnot, and maybe you all can glean some insights from that. But yeah, I mean, he's been in the toy business for quite some time, him and his family. And so, you know what? Ethan, why don't you just like introduce yourself, who you are, where you live, maybe a little bit of background, and before we actually get into like the meat and potatoes of our conversation.
Definitely. Thank you, Kenny, for the great introduction. I'm definitely very grateful to be here in front of everyone. So to give a little bit of background on our company, my dad started the company in 2005. And the company started off as like an e-commerce toy business. So we would sell a lot on like Amazon, eBay. And then over time, it kind of transitioned into a Funko company. So we became an authorized Funko retailer in 2013. And then ever since then, we've been pushing really, really hard on Funkos. And I've been helping out my parents' company since I was like 9 years old. So I would be at like San Diego Comic-Con, like 9, 10 years old, like pushing sales. And then that kind of transitioned over time to me helping my dad with the social media part of the company. So I created like the Instagram, started doing like a lot of posts and like social media marketing when I was in high school. And throughout college, I kind of took a little bit of a step back, but I recently just graduated. So now I'm here at the company full time and we're pushing as hard as we can right now. So that's kind of where we're at right now.
That's amazing. And are your parents still involved in the business?
Yes, they are. They
Okay,
are.
awesome. I love that. Love a family business story. So look, in your toy, which is like was a Funko brick and mortar store, is that right?
Correct, correct. We
Even
mainly
from day one?
not from day one. So we used to sell a lot of like Legos, Kotobukiyas, Hot Wheels, stuff like that in like the early 2000s. And then we got introduced to Funko at San Diego Comic-Con. And then since 2012, 2013, we fully moved it into like a fully Funko business, which is our brick and mortar and then conventions mostly.
That's awesome, man. And so when the brick and mortar store was open, you told me that it was only open 3 days a week, right?
Correct,
Um,
correct.
and now you guys started to really just fully lean into Whatnot, right? And so can you tell me how that came to be? Like, where did you first hear of Whatnot? What was it like trying to explain to your parents what live e-commerce is? I bet you that was interesting. Uh,
Yeah.
and like, yeah, and is the store even open today, or did you close it and now you're just live streaming? Like, just give us a little bit more behind the curtains on that.
Mhm. Yeah, so our store was located in kind of like this convention, like slash like swamp meet thing where it's like only for collectibles. It was called Frankensons. So we were only open Wednesday, Saturday, and Sundays. Um, yeah, so we did that for I would say around like 15 years, and it was doing really well post COVID. So like right after COVID, like everyone's like ready to like to get out of the house. So we got a lot of traffic to the Frankensons, which is our brick and mortar. And then over time, like things slowed down, business slowed down a lot. And that's kind of where I had to start thinking, okay, like what are some other sales channels we can start? So we did a lot of like Amazon, a lot of eBay, and we even opened up our new website. But one of the things when I first came into the company, coming back from college, was like, I really want to try like Whatnot because like I've seen like the trend of live shopping, and I definitely think it is the future. So the earlier we start, the better. Um, yeah, but we heard about Whatnot a few years ago. I want to say like late 2021, early 2022. I think like Funko was one of like the first categories that Whatnot focused on. So we heard about Whatnot through like our customers, like everyone's talking about like they're like live streaming. They're like we have customers live streaming in our store. And I was like really intrigued by that, but I just kind of never had the opportunity to, really do a deep dive. And once we did, we just started streaming right away. And now we're here.
And so how did yeah, that's amazing. And by the way, yeah, you're right. Funko was our actual first category. I mean, the product launched only with Funko, right? And so like our co-founders were into Funko and they just kind of built the marketplace that they wanted, the experience that they wanted for their Funko enthusiasts and their community in the Funko community. And like that's literally what how Whatnot got its origin. What was it like trying to explain to your parents? I mean, I'd imagine I'm trying to like think. I try like I have a it's hard for me to it was hard for me to explain to my father or my mother like what where I work and what we do because it's
Yeah.
like it's kind of a new way to shop, right? It's like hasn't been around for so long at all. And so what was that like? I'd imagine like they were like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, I was lucky because like I think they were also a little bit exposed to it because like they would see their customers get on Whatnot. So they've always like heard things like here and there. But I don't think they like fully grasped the concept until like we started doing it. Like what do you mean we're just starting everything at $1? Like
Yeah.
what do you mean it's 10 seconds? Like so I think like that concept kind of took them a little bit longer to get like to kind of grasp. But I think in terms of like the live social shopping part, they were kind of surrounded by it, like because of our brick and mortar. So it wasn't too hard to explain to them. But in terms of actually like, oh, like we're doing giveaways every 5 minutes, and we're doing $1 starts, it's sudden death, like stuff like that. They're just like, oh, like are the prices going to be good? Like so stuff like
There,
that.
there's like a magical moment though, like once you show them, right? Like once they see it, it like clicks and it's like, oh wow, this is amazing.
Yeah.
Sometimes like when I'm trying to explain to people like where I work and whatnot is, sometimes I just pull out my phone. I'm like, let me just show you.
Mhm.
I feel like that's much easier.
Yeah.
um, so how long have you guys been on whatnot then? When did you start?
So we started August of last year. So right now we just crossed our 1 year anniversary on Whatnot.
Wow. Okay. So even though Funko, so it's like, yeah, you weren't like one of the first Funko sellers,
Mhm.
but you definitely got so you joined when Funko was, I wouldn't say mature, but like well established category and whatnot, and like you were able to carve out a space for yourself there. And so what did it look like in the early days? Think back to your like first few shows, right? What did that look like for you? Did you find success right away, or was it like a slower sort of like curve?
In the early days, I would definitely say it wasn't like an instant success. Like as any new seller, like we had to hop on, we had to try to like build our name in the community. I would say like we're definitely on the luckier side because we have been doing Funko for so long. I'm like our name is already like semi-known in the Funko community. Like we've had like Funko exclusives in the past, so
Oh,
that
cool.
definitely helped out a lot. Um,
And were
but
you able to bring over your brick and mortar custom? Like when people walked into the store, were you like, hey, check us out on Whatnot? Did you sort of try to move your existing customer base to Whatnot?
Definitely, definitely. So like especially in like the early days of Whatnot when we weren't as big as we were now, like starting things at $1 were like a lot scarier. So we were trying to push all of like our existing customers to the platform. Because they would kind of have like they would kind of know like what the stuff was going for. So we were selling it for like extremely cheap, at least like we had customers there like willing to bid it up for us in the beginning. But yeah, like after a few months at the brick and mortar, everyone like we were like mini celebrities, you know, they're like, yo, like you guys are like the guys on Whatnot, which was
I
really
love
cool.
that. I
So
think you also mentioned like, dollar starts, and I think it's worth mentioning here. Dollar starts are fun and they're exciting, but they're by no means at all like the only path to success on Whatnot. And I say this because we probably have some newer sellers in the chat. We may even have sellers that have never gone live yet that are interested in going live for the first time. And I just want to be cautious. Like dollar starts is not for every seller, and many sellers are very successful not doing dollar starts. And so there's a lot of different formats, a lot of different ways that you can sell on Whatnot, right? And I think you could test the waters with dollar start. Me personally, like when I first started selling on Whatnot, like I didn't have a big audience at all. Like, and so I needed to protect my margin. And so I would start the item at whatever I was comfortable it selling for. And slowly, like I got a little bit more confident, got a little bit of a following, and now I do dollar starts, right? But it wasn't like that in the beginning. And so just want to like make sure that that's not like, we hear a lot of new sellers say like, oh, but do I have to do dollar starts to find success? And the answer is no, you don't. I would say experiment with a bunch of different selling formats and strategies, and see what kind of works for you and your business, and that will probably evolve and change over time as you see success. All right, let's get to some of the spicy. What were some of the like challenges in the early days, right? So, I mean, and also like, how did you overcome them? So, if you could think back to those early days, you did have the advantage that you were well known in the Funko space, so you brought an audience with you. But like, did you encounter any challenges? What were they? How did you overcome them?
yeah, that's definitely I just want to piggyback off what you said. So
Sure.
dollar starts as a new seller is definitely like not like necessary at all and can be like really difficult. So I think that's kind of like for us, like that's where we ran into our first challenge. Because like right when we got on the app, I'm like watching like all of these like big sellers doing like 10 seconds, 5 second, like sudden death, like $1 starts. And it was like really daunting in the beginning. So like we tried to mimic that, doing dollar starts in the beginning, and then like we just got absolutely killed like on our margin. So we just kind of needed to pivot. So like for certain exclusives or certain pops, we would start them at like $5 or $10. And then we would mix in the dollar starts like here and there, just so the customers could like like stick around. Oh, like they're gonna do a dollar start soon, like I'm gonna stick around. That was definitely like one of like the first challenges, is kind of like we perceived Whatnot like based on like all like the really big sellers we were watching. So like we felt like in a sense like pressure to mimic them. But as a new seller, if you guys are like any new sellers in the chat, I definitely would say like that is like 100% like not necessary. It's okay to like start building slowly. Like you don't have to, like you shouldn't have to expect like, oh, I have to run like these like 100 items at $1. Like you can build your customer base slowly, and over time then if it works out for your type of stream, then that's something you can pursue in like the future.
And also, and again, to go a little even deeper, because I like this topic a lot, and I think it's very important for newer sellers, even experienced sellers. Like you could also consider, a lot of new sellers, do run giveaways, right? Which is awesome, and there's a use case for it. But you could also like, as to like almost a reward to the people in your show, you could say, okay, I'm going to run a dollar start. Like that could be your special thing, right? Like, and then it's like you're getting a sale, you're getting a customer, right? Because you're running a thing at a dollar. Like, say you start everything at $5 or $10 or whatever it is that you need to get out of the item, and then like once in a while, rather than maybe running a giveaway, you're like, all right, chat. All right, I'm gonna run this at a dollar. Like that's also exciting, right? And that's also, I think, like dollar starts can also be used as an engagement tactic. And even maybe sometimes you could argue, a case could be made that it's maybe more valuable than giveaways, because you're actually getting a paying customer, right? And you're actually gonna like be able to maybe reach out back to that customer and like say, hey, thanks for your purchase. And there's a lot you could do there. And so, and with that, Ethan, I want to talk a little bit about your live strategy, right? So every seller has a very unique sort of approach to this. And so let's talk about, how often do you stream per week, I guess, when you started, and how has that changed over time? And boy, has it changed.
Yeah, so in the strategy that we as a company kind of had since the very, very beginning was consistency. We believe that like if we wanted to build like a really strong customer base, like we would have to have like a really consistent schedule. So in the beginning, we started streaming 3 days a week, which would be like Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And we did around like 1 to 2 hour streams. Like we just wanted to start at the exact same time every single day. So if there was someone that like wanted to join our streams, like they would know like exactly when we would be live. And then that's kind of changed over time. Like currently we're streaming six days out of the week, and we're striving for like a minimum of 5 to 6 hour streams every single day on our main account.
Okay, that's wild. But you said something that I really want, I really love, and we try to say this in our webinars and every other kind of educational program that we do, is that consistency is key, right? And so, like what I heard from you in the early days is like you picked the day, you picked the time, and you stuck to it. And you also mentioned that, well, that we did that because that's when like our customers got sort of used to expecting us, or and I think that that's a really important point, right? So like if you're a new seller, um, be consistent, right? And stay consistent, whether or not your show is great or not so great. Just show up, right? Like for me, and it's been this way for the last 3 years, Ethan. If I go live, it's at noon on a Saturday Eastern time, right? And it's been that way. And so like during that time of the week, of the day, whatever, like there's a cohort of people usually on the app that have come to sort of like expect me to be on if I'm live during that time. And it's just like, you think about it like television, right? Like there's I don't know, a TV show that you love to watch, and it comes on Wednesday at 9 p.m. and you can bet on it, and it's like that regularity. When you're doing something that's like entertaining, people want to be able to be like, oh, I know that anime Tasia is going to be on, because they're always on at that time, and like it's almost like a subconscious like thing that people get in the habit of tuning into. And so I love that you all did that. And now with the hours and the you guys have, not one channel, you have two channels now. We'll talk about that a little bit. But that's amazing, and congratulations really on all of your success. I think it's super inspiring. So you've only been on the platform for just over a year, and to like see where you all are at now in the space is pretty incredible. And I'm inspired by it, and I bet people in the chat are as well. And so maybe we could talk about like, obviously sourcing is one thing, but how do you prepare your inventory? So you're going to go live, you have a show coming up. Is there some kind of like inventory, like you want to run these types of items, or like, is there any kind of strategy that you feel comfortable sharing, or just maybe a philosophy on how you look at that, how you think about it, in terms of how do you prepare your inventory for a show?
Of course, of course. So our strategy is kind of that like we give our streamer like full control of how they want to run their stream. Obviously, like a little bit more like in the beginning, like I would be a little bit more like nitpicky, but after like I have trust after my streamer has like streamed for a while, like I would just have to trust that they are going to know like what inventory to pull, like how much inventory to pull for the day. And so currently, like the strategy we have is that we let the streamer, come in before the actual stream starts, and then they pull all of their own inventory. And that's really important because when they're live on the stream, I want them to know exactly what they have like readily available next to them. So if we just had like, let's just say like another employee pull all the pops, and then my streamer goes live, then he has like no idea what is like in the queue, for example. So we let our own streamer pull everything like from A to Z. And then we also have everything really organized in the warehouse. So if there was like a request in the chat, like somebody could grab it within like 30 seconds. And I think that's like really important to building a customer base, like to let them know that you're reading the chat, let them know that like they're important to your live, and kind of makes them feel like they're part of the live as well. And you're not just sitting there like running whatever you want. But there's definitely a fine line between like, running the things that like you want to sell versus just like completely letting like the chat run your show. But yeah, I would say like for our live strategy, I give my streamer pretty much point on everything.
Yeah, so I think that's a good tip there. It's like have your inventory organized in a manner in which you know where your stuff is.
Mhm.
And at least then, like if someone pulls up in the chat and they're like, hey, do you have any of these or those? Or you're like, first of all, because you know your inventory, but then you also know where it is. So you could quickly and efficiently grab it and get it on screen. And I think that that's a good call out. I think sometimes it's a little challenging, right? Because inventory there could be a lot of inventory. It could be like, I'm just thinking like, think about the case of like estate sales where there's just like a bazillion different trinkets. It's like very hard to know all of them. But I think like in Funko, or for example, like you kind of know which ones you have, right? And you understand that space very, very well, usually if you're selling it. So that's pretty cool. How do you and your team, I'm going to talk about community a little bit. How do you and your team communicate with your community, interact with them? Do you welcome people in? Do you ask them, hey chat, like what we did earlier when we were getting started, like where are you joining us from? Like, do you do things like that? Like, how do you get them to engage and interact?
Of course. So our part of our strategy is just kind of try to make a environment where it's kind of like we can just like hang out. Like we're not necessarily a seller and you're not necessarily a buyer. So like we really emphasize like our lives just being like a hangout space. Like we all, whenever someone joins the chat, we're always like, thank you so much for joining. If you guys like don't see anything you like no worries, just like come and just hang out with us, and that kind of builds like an environment where like we could talk about like or like my streamer and our chat can pretty much like talk about anything. So whether it's like the new Marvel movie or like a new TV show that came out, yeah, it's really easy to talk to our chat. It's not, we're not like we don't want them to feel like, oh, like they're only trying to sell us things. Like we're really trying to build like a community on whatnot. So that's the kind of like vibe and environment that we as a company try to curate for the stream.
I think it's a very, very wise approach, and I personally feel comfortable when I go to a show. I mean, I tune into a lot of shows, but I always love the ones that like where you're made to feel equal, whether or not you're a buyer or not, right? It's like the ones that are like hard selling the whole time. For me personally, it's like less my vibe. I mean, I'm sure there is people who enjoy that, but like for me, I like the ones that are like, for example, like I do diecast, I sell diecast. Hot Wheels is what I do with my nephew. And so like that community is like, I like to tune into those shows just to understand like what's hot in the community, what's going on, what are people excited about. And it's like these like-minded individuals. And I think the shows that I'm most engaged in are the ones that are like very open. The seller is very open to like interacting and like answering questions, even though if it's not like, do you have this item? It's more like, hey, what do you think about this upcoming release? And then you could tell that the seller is an expert in that particular category, which I think then lends itself to like trusting that seller, and then you kind of get like the sale, maybe not during that show, but like I think you earn this trust and loyalty that like, oh, Ethan really knows his stuff. I really feel comfortable there, even though I haven't bought anything. They make me feel welcome. So when I do want something, I know where I'm going, right? So it's like a very, very clever strategy, but I also think it pays dividends like down like in the long term. um so that's helpful. So yeah, chat, what I'm hearing Ethan say is like, you can come hang out and we're not going to be selling stuff, like we're not going to be pushing sales. We're also going to be just chilling and hanging out and talking about Funko or talking about Labubu or whatever it is that we're selling. How do you guys market yourself? Also, chat, make sure you're following Ethan at Anime Tasia, and also make sure you're following this account. If you have a question for Ethan, drop it in the chat. Casey on my team, on the community team, is taking questions, putting them aside. We'll get to as many as we can towards the end of the show. Shout out to Casey. Thank you so much. Cool. So yeah, how do you market yourself on Whatnot? And how do you market yourself off of Whatnot?
So for on Whatnot, we definitely like from the bare basics, like we try to have like a really engaging like title and thumbnail. So hopefully like we get picked up like by the algorithm and are placed like on the homepage. And we definitely utilize the promote tool really, really often on the app. So like the promote tool is really useful for getting as many eyeballs on your account as much as possible. And then from there, then you could take try to improve like the user experience. So like making a really engaging show. So like that's like your responsibility. And then like kind of how we carry that beyond that is like we use the promote tool to get those new buyers into our show, and then from there like we do the best that we can to like keep them in our show, like try to get them in a few giveaways, stuff like
Can
that.
you, Ethan, for the folks here that might not know what promote tools are, do you mind maybe telling us a little bit, like how would you describe that? I mean, I know how I describe it, but I'm curious from your point of view as a seller, like, hey, I'm a new seller. What are promote tools?
Yeah, so a promote tools is basically like it's a tool that Whatnot created for either is the new seller or seasoned sellers. And if you basically promote your show, it can boost your show to not only buyers in your category, but the app as a whole. And I think like that's the most useful part of promote tools. It's not you're not only gaining visibility in your own category. Like for us, like we notice all the time, like if we're promoting a show, it doesn't just boost your show within the Funko category. Like we're also boosted in like the Disney category or like the or like a Marvel category or anime category, like whatever like Whatnot believes that like the buyer would be interested in, like you're getting pushed out to all those other categories as well. But yeah, basically pushes your show to like the top of the page. So when someone opens the app, like your show is like the first show that the buyer would see. And then from there, like if you have like a really interesting title, like I said before, like title, thumbnail, that would drag them into your show.
That's a great, a really great explanation. I love that. It's very, very understandable. I think also like worth noting, right, that you get to see a wild level of transparency on the efficacy of your promote tool campaign. What I mean is that like post show analytics can show you like exactly how many people tapped into your show as a result of your promote tool campaign, how many of those actually like bought something, and it also calculates like your return on ad spend. So you could see like, oh my God, for every dollar I spent in promote tools, I made $5. Like that's 500% return on my ad spend. Like it's, you don't have to be like a performance marketing like guru to understand the value of this for you as a Whatnot seller. We literally give you these analytics. They're very, very easy to understand and like kind of break down and comprehend. And so if you are someone, if you're a seller here and you're like, oh, that sounds kind of interesting, my recommendation would be to like go to help.whatnot.com. And there's that's our help desk. Again, I would go there for any question you have, because 99 out of 100 times you can self-serve, you can find your answer very quickly as opposed to like emailing support. So there's a search bar there, help.what, maybe Casey, thank you, legend. There it is there, chat, help.whatnot.com. You can search promote tools or anything else. Like you could search, flat rate shipping. You could search, how payments work, or, fees, everything that you can imagine as a Whatnot seller. You're going to find an article about it. It's very, very like user friendly to understand and read. So check out the, help.whatnot.com, and then you could search promote tools and you could literally read about it. You'll be an expert within 5 minutes. And so, yeah, that's a good plug for that resource as well. So you mentioned, you're pretty loyal to the promote tool feature. Are there any other features that you all use? Whether it's giveaways, coupons, reduced shipping. There's so many now. Rewards club. I mean, the list goes on and on. Is there anything else that you like what's been working pretty well for your business?
Yeah. So before I get into that, I just had thought of one more point I wanted to add about the promote tools analytics. Like I thought about it right when as soon as you mentioned analytics, but I think it's really important because like the promote tool brings buyers to your show, not just viewers. So like when in the analytics, like you can see like how many bids am I getting? Like there's like like there's like so many analytics that Whatnot does provide for the promote tools. So I would definitely recommend just to try it out maybe for like 1 hour or like your entire show for like your Wednesday show compared to your Thursday show. And then when you're in the analytics, you can see like how many extra bids you got, how many impressions you got, like how many clicks from the homepage I got. So yeah, it's definitely one of the tools that we utilize the most on the app. And then along with that, we also utilize giveaways. So giveaways are for us, like we see it as like a really important tool to, kind of keep the buyers, like give them an extra reason to stay in the stream if they're not necessarily interested in what you're running. So especially for Funko, like there's so many different categories. There's like anime, sports, Marvel, DC.
Yeah.
So like for sometimes like if you're not necessarily running something that that specific buyer is like interested in, like they can always like also just be in the giveaway, and that also incentivizes them to like stay in your stream a little bit longer. And then within those few minutes, like we'll probably run something that they're interested in. So like promote tools and giveaways, we kind of use those like hand in hand, and that's kind of like our strategy in terms of marketing.
I love that. And I think it makes me think of something that maybe is worth also mentioning is that like if you do use promote tools, be ready, right? Like because you're gonna have a surge of viewers and you don't want to just be caught like off guard. Like make sure like if you say you run show boost. So within show promote, I don't want to go into too much details because it might be a little too much. But there are two types of promote tools. There's show promote and show boost, right? Show promote you decide how long you want to run the campaign for. Show Boost is a 15-minute campaign, so it's like almost like a surge of viewerships. So like if I had a really unique item that I wanted to get some hype around, I might choose Show Boost, right, and get like that big rush of people in the door. But I gotta be ready for it, right? Because once they're there, you don't want to be like, what do I do? Like Ethan said, run a giveaway, tell them what you're about, tell them what your business is, tell them why you love Funko or whatever category. Like it's almost like your time to shine, right? And so you want to take advantage of it, so that when people do come through the door, you're able to captivate them and get the most out of that. Awesome, I love it. So you heard it here, chat. Promote tools combined with giveaways is Ethan's go-to strategy. I like it, Ethan. Um, okay, when I spoke to you last week, you told me you recently launched a second channel, right, dedicated to Labubu, um, which is like expanding beyond your primary focus on Funko, right? What made you decide to do that? How's it going so far, etc.? Like, because I think that look, Labubu is a cultural phenomenon, right? Like, it literally, like a couple months ago, no one even knew what a Labubu was, and now it's like we just had a on-app event, Labubu Mania. It was wild. It's like a giant cultural uh phenomenon, really. And so what did like how did you see that? Did you see that trend emerging and you were like, we got to jump on that? What was it like? And then now that you have your second account, what has that been like? And I'm just curious about that part of your story. I think it's very interesting.
Course. So alongside like the retail part of our business, like we also do a lot of wholesale. So we were kind of selling a lot of like wholesaling a lot of Pop Mart stuff in the beginning of the year. We were even selling to a lot of like whatnot sellers. So like we would sell to like a lot of like big accounts that were pushing like Labubu's, Pop Mart, like Crybaby, like Skull Panels, like all like the really popular stuff. And I think at that time, like we weren't really like ready to start a brand new account as we were still building our main account. And more recently, I think we felt comfortable enough to, okay, like let's sit down and see if we can start this new account because we already like have all the product, like we have experience streaming. It's just whether or not like we're able to take on the responsibility of like running a completely new show also simultaneously like with our existing main channel. But so far, like it's been going really well. I would definitely say there has been like higher volume than we expected. So we've been trying to expand like the back end of our operations as fast as possible. So like more shippers, more packers, more pickers, stuff like that. But other than that, it's been going really, really well.
And then what's the name of your, maybe we could also drop your what is that other, if you're in the chat and you want to buy some Labubus, what's that accountant's name?
Yeah, it's called the Animatasia Remix. So we have our main account, which is Animatasia, and then Animatasia Remix for the Labubu account. We're trying not to call it like the Labubu account. It's just kind of like our remix account for everything that's popular. So right now, like blind boxes are really popular. So we've been selling a lot of like other brands outside of Pop Mart as well.
Got it.
We kind of want that account to evolve over time with, what's popular and what's trending. So we'll always have like the main account Animatasia for Funkos because like that's our core business, but the remix account will kind of just be like, shifting with what's
Like
popular.
trends, and yeah,
Right.
that's cool.
Exactly. Like the
I,
hardest to get items will always be on that account.
That's cool. That's a cool strategy. And then so what are, and if you don't mind if sharing with us, just like I'm curious, what are your top three goals for 2025? Or have you already had those goals achieved? Because you've been on quite the tear. So
Yeah. We definitely surpassed a good amount of goals for 2025, but we still have like a few big goals for the rest of Q4. I definitely say the first thing that we're most focused on right now is kind of ramping up our second channel to be on par with the our main channel.
hmm,
So right now, like we're not streaming as much, so I kind of want to get it to like similar hours. I want to get like as I want to get like dedicated streamers for the stream. So kind of with right now with our main channel, we have like two streamers that are like the regular streamers, and it's beneficial because like on that main account, like everyone goes to that show and they already know the two streamers. Um, so like they're able to build that like rapport and kind of like have that community aspect with those two streamers. We're kind of lacking that right now in our second account. So that's definitely one of the goals that we want to achieve. And then a second goal of 2025 would be to host more like dedicated events like for ourselves. So like right now, like we just had like an on platform like whatnot show like Labubu Mania, but we kind of want to start hosting our shows like for hosting events on our own accounts. So for example, like last year during Christmas, we had this event called like the Popathon. So that was basically like 12-hour streams for 5 days straight. So it was like a marathon for pops, and if you will. And we want to kind of do more of those events to drive like more of those events to that we can like promote and like market on social media to bring new buyers to our shows. So that would be the second goal. And then for the third goal would be to increase like or grow the team on the back end. Because I definitely would say for whatnot, the most important part isn't really necessarily the streaming. It's really the back end. That I would say like that's like the most like labor intensive part of streaming. So we definitely want to grow the shipping team. Right now, like we pride ourselves on getting all the packages out within 24 hours. So with this new account, like we've been having to hire more help on the back end to continue to fulfill that promise.
thank you. Thanks for sharing, Ethan. When you say the back end, do you mean specifically like shipping?
Yes, yes. Shipping and fulfillment would be the back end for us.
Yeah. Well, when you're selling, yeah, I mean it gets right, it's all relative. Like as you sell more, you're gonna need more shipping resources, right? Like, but those, I guess those are good problems to have.
Yeah.
um, where here goes that giveaway. Good luck, chat. Congrats to the winner. Where do you see your whatnot business in 1 year from now?
1 year from now, I hope that like both, I hope that our second account is running as smoothly as our main account. And we're trying to do that without compromising the quality of the streams, right? So like we could tomorrow, like we could start like
Yeah.
five new accounts and just have like five like mid streams, but we really want to try to scale those accounts while keeping up like the best quality streams, like the most engaging and the most entertaining streams, which is I would say like definitely a little bit more difficult to do. That's why it took us almost a year to start our second account. Like if anything, like we probably could have started like second
Yeah.
and like a few months after, but then we would have been getting ahead of ourselves. So we were really patient. We wanted to make sure that, like all the wrinkles were smoothed out on the main account before even thinking about starting the second account. So 1 year from now, hopefully everything is running smoothly. And then another thing I want to think about implementing in the future is start having like streaming shifts. So for example, like right now, like one streamer runs the entire show by themselves. But if we want to start doing like longer streams past like 4 or 5 hours, like I want to implement like streaming shifts. So where like two streamers can kind of like switch off, and that way that'll help with like like streamer fatigue and other.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So streamer
It
fatigue
is
is real.
this. Yeah, it's real. I mean, yeah, for sure. You got to it is it's real for sure, man. I mean, again, I'm trying to think like my experience, and I go live maybe once a month, and we do, and it's with my nephew, so I've got help, right? And it's like we do 4 or 5 hour show, and like every time after the show, he and I, and he's like 21, he's younger, he's got energy. We're like dude, this is so like, how do people do this for like 12-hour, 24-hour marathons? It's like
Yeah.
wild. It's just like, oh my gosh. Okay, we got a couple, so like three more questions from me, Ethan, and then we're gonna kind of turn it to some of the questions that we've captured from the chat. So, chat, if you've got questions for Ethan about his experience on Whatnot, he's been kind enough to come on here and kind of share. So feel free to drop it in the chat, and hopefully we can get to your question. I know that you've scaled your business substantially. How do you think about scaling it? And I'm curious, like in your previous answer, you said something that I thought was really clever. You said like, I could spin up 100 different accounts, but I want to ensure quality. So like, how do you scale while ensuring quality? Like, and what is your thought process around that? Right. Because it's almost like what's more important, quality or quantity? And you could say that both are important. And so how have you looked at that in terms of like scaling your operation? Yeah, I know you got how many folks now on the team? Quite a lot, right?
Right around 10.
10 people working for you on Whatnot. It's wild, right? So like, how do you think about that? And when do you know it's time to like, okay, hire another one or scale out and get a bigger warehouse, stuff like that, add another account, whatever it is?
My thought process definitely always instantly thinks to the back end and shipping. So like kind of like my view on it is that it's always easier to stay on stream for an extra hour and sell like an extra 50 to 100 items, but is my back end going to be able to get those packages out in time within
Yeah.
our 24-hour promise, right? Like we could honestly stream for 12 days, or 12 hours per day, but then if my shipping team can't handle that type of volume and fulfill all the orders, I guess that's where kind of like the quality of the experience as a buyer kind of would drop. So I definitely would focus when we're scaling. We always try to focus on the back end first to make sure that we can handle the volume. And then from there, we would, maybe implement streaming shifts and streaming for longer hours. But yeah, on as a Whatnot seller, I would definitely say backend slash shipping is the first thing you kind of need to scale. Because after your shipping team can handle it, when you're on stream and it's going well, like you don't want to have to end because you're like, oh, I can't, well, I won't be able to get all the packages out.
Right.
So like it's easier to stay on stream for an extra hour or two compared to packing an extra, few hundred orders. So that's definitely like where my perspective is in terms of scaling. So we're always going to start like on the back end first and then kind of move up the ladder from there.
I love it. Makes sense. Last question I have for you is, what is one action that you would suggest that newer sellers in attendance take this week? Again, and it doesn't have to be new seller. It could be whether they're a seasoned seller or just getting started. What is like the one piece of advice? If I met you, Ethan, and I said, hey man, like I'm a Whatnot seller, like what would be the one thing you recommend I do?
I see. So if you're like a completely new seller, like if you've never went live before, the first thing I would say is just to get that show scheduled. Like once you schedule that show, like you're already committed to it. And then from there, like you're gonna do everything in your power to make it the best show. I would definitely say that's like once you schedule the show, like you're already 90% of the way there, So
Schedule it, but also hit the go live button when it's
exactly, and then
time.
following through
Yeah,
actually going live.
yeah.
But yeah, if you're a new seller, I definitely just get that first show scheduled, create like a really nice thumbnail and an engaging title. Like if you've never went live before, like once you schedule it, like you just have to think that like, okay, like now that it's scheduled, like I'm going to do whatever it takes to make it happen, rather than like, okay, like how can I start prepping for the show? You just get that show scheduled and then you're gonna make it happen. And if you're a more seasoned seller, so like you went live before, I would definitely say that it's really important to not be complacent with your Whatnot streams. Like things are always changing. There's always like new features added. So just like don't always like be okay with like how your stream is going. Like if it's going okay, like be sure to always like test new features, like always innovating your streams is super important. So maybe like this week, like try using the promote tool if you haven't already, or try running like a buyer's giveaway, or try running discounted shipping. Like always test new things and just kind of find what works for you, and then And then yeah, that's probably what I would the advice I would give to a more
I,
seasoned seller.
I love it. That's great advice. So Ethan says if you're a newer seller, he suggests, scheduling that first show and just doing it, right? Just get it done. And then he said, if you're a more experienced seller, don't become complacent. New features, new things are constantly rolling out. I mean, we're still in the very early days of whatnot. So like, make sure that, you're maybe this is a good opportunity to, Casey, to share our blog URL, which is, I think, teamwhatnot.blog.com or something like that. You can also just Google it, whatnot blog, which is where we come up with like share out a lot of like the new features that we're rolling out or events that are happening on the app or interesting facts about a certain category. Great place to get information. And so I love those answers. Thank you so much. Blog.teamwhatnot.com. Thank you, Casey. I had it backwards. Okay, we're gonna change now. Got some questions that came in from the chat throughout this show, Ethan, and I got them here. I'm gonna ask them if we can keep them punchy, kind of like so we can get through as many as possible. That would be awesome. And so, first question comes from, I think it's Blake Nakochan, is asking, how do you manage inventory between online and in person? I struggle to manage mine between cons and online platforms. Sometimes I already sell something that I sold in person, etc. And that's a great question.
We're really fortunate to have like a large enough warehouse to where we can designate areas. So for certain sales channels. So for example, like all of our website, Amazon, eBay, that's all one area to manage by one program or like one inventory software that manages all the inventory there. And then we'll have like our convention stuff pulled out of that inventory and
I
set
see.
aside for conventions. And then for whatnot, we could also pull from that and then just deduct it from our software or our inventory software. And then we just dedicate that area to only whatnot. So we have it like deducted well before the stuff is even sold on whatnot.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is, whether or not you have software, inventory management software, that might be a little bit advanced for some sellers, but essentially it's like if you basically maybe it's worthwhile having just even a spreadsheet with your inventory and kind of like where it's listed perhaps, and then if say you sell it on whatnot, then you would want to just go back and see where else it's listed to remove it so you're not selling something that's already sold. But again, I think this goes back to Ethan's early point of like know your inventory, right? Like know what you have, and try to stay kind of like pretty aware, I guess, of like what it is you have in your stock and what it is you don't. But it's a really good question. I think there's a lot of ways you can answer that. Next question comes from Dakona_bakes. What's your advice for sellers who are doing buy it now only shows to keep the stream captivating? And I think this is also a very good question. So if chat, if you don't know what a buy it now show is, basically like when you're live, you could also just list things in your shop at a fixed price. And you can occasionally like pin them where you would run an auction. You could talk about that product. So you don't have to run auctions during your show. I know a lot of sports sellers do buy it now shows, stuff like that. And so I like to combine it. I like to have things in my shop as buy it now options and also do as buy it now listings and also do auctions. But any thoughts there on how, if I was just running a buy it now show exclusively, what would you tell me on how do I keep my audience engaged there?
I think from there, so it's definitely really important to have that like core customer base that is like willing to show up for you, like whether you're running auctions or buy it now. So my biggest advice I would say for that is to have whatever you have in the buy it now like readily available, like next to you or something that you can show on camera right away. It could really deter a buyer if like they come into your show, they're browsing your stream, and they're like, oh, like, can I see this item? And then like you can't show it on camera for some reason. Like stuff that we've done in the past, like if we had stuff in our buy it now, like we would just have it on like a back wall, and then if they're inquiring about it, we could just pull it right off the back wall and show them right away. I definitely would say that like to keep your show captivating, just like try to be as entertaining as possible, like make sure you're engaging with like every single person that is in your live, and then obviously having that stuff like readily available to show the buyers would be the most important.
Yeah, that's a great call out. It's like, if someone's like, hey, I see that thing in your shop, be able to grab it quickly, get it on screen, and then use the advantage of live video to showcase the product, maybe call out the condition, show the condition, all that sort of thing. So I think that's a good call out. Great question. I love the question. Martha Cares Beauty is asking, as a new seller, how can I get my stream to more buyers? And I think you spoke about this with promote tools. Is there anything else that you would recommend?
I kind of talked about most points, I think. So definitely promote tools and then again, like that consistency. Um, I know in the past, like when we first started, what we were doing was we would create like ad campaigns on like Facebook and Instagram, like with our show links. And then from there, like people are bookmarking my shows. One great tip is that like you want to have like a lot of shows scheduled so that like if someone joins your stream and maybe they don't buy something for that stream, they can bookmark all of your future streams. So like yeah, ad campaigns outside of Whatnot are a great way of getting brand new buyers. Maybe they never even been on the app before, but you're pushing them to the app, and then you're going to be like the first seller that they see when they download the app. So I would definitely say definitely test that out and then see how that works for you.
That's awesome. I love that advice. You could also look as a new seller, if it's your actual first show, you could just send a link to your family and friends, and that's usually enough to for at least for you to get your bearings and kind of understand, the seller experience during a live stream. And um, I have no shame to admit that my first show was literally like I think my brother was there and maybe one other person, and like I think he bought stuff because he just felt kind of sorry for me. But like it allowed me the opportunity to understand, how do I run stuff? How do I add an item? How do I run a giveaway? Like, you also have rehearsal mode, which you could practice on, which is really great. And that's in Seller Hub. You could also create a private stream, right? Where it's not going to show up in the feed. And you could literally just send that link to your friends and family and just be like, guys, can you pull up? I'm new. I just want to like get my, get the hang of it. And can you come support me? And you could do there's a lot of ways to answer this question. But I think the important thing is just to apply consistency to whatever method you do choose. Um, all right, next question is from TiffLD03. How much does promoting your show cost? And then which one would you advise, promote boost or show promote? I think I can take a crack at this one, Ethan. I think so. Look, what it costs is contingent upon different variables. First of all, it depends on what you're comfortable spending, what you can allocate, but it also depends on what category you're in and when you're live. So it's like a dynamic. It's just like any other ad platform where it's dynamic based on traffic, right? So like if it's like prime time, call it Saturday night, and then you're in a pretty so like Funko, a pretty big category, for example, it's going to give you, what's cool is that like it gives you really like these guardrails where if you're setting up show boost or show promote, it's like you can't mess it up, right? It literally like at step by step, like how long do you want to run it for? How much do you want to spend? Here's what we recommend given the current traffic on the app, and it'll give you a range between $5 to $20, for example. So like it really kind of like holds your hand through the process. But there isn't a silver bullet answer here. It depends. It depends on what you're comfortable with. It depends on what category you're selling in and at what time of the day you're on in the week. But the good news is the promote tool feature actually guides you through that setup with recommendations that even tells you like estimated number of impressions you'll get with the budget that you allocate. Again, the level of transparency on promote tools is honestly maybe my favorite part about it. It's like you feel very much in control and you feel very much like where that money went, right? There's no like, oh, I don't know if it worked. It's like you'll know right away after your show if it worked. um, which is really, really cool. And then which one would you advise, show boost or show promote? Maybe I'll let you answer that one, Ethan.
Yeah, I honestly just think it depends like really what your goal is for that stream. Like kind of like if Kenny was saying, if you have like one really cool and unique item, like maybe you could opt in with the show boost for those 15 minutes. But if you just kind of want to have like slow, consistent buyers coming in and out of your show, I would definitely go with the show promote, the whole entire show promote.
Yep. Again, real quick, high level, show boost is a 15-minute promotion. So if you got a really wild, rare item or something that you really want to say to the most amount of people about an upcoming show, for example, show boost probably be the right one. And then show promote is like you could choose between for an hour, for two, for three, for the entirety of your show. And it's just kind of like a slow drip as opposed to like a surge. Great question. These are really wonderful questions, Casey. Thank you for grabbing them. Next question comes from Tickles_vintage. Are there any days or times that are better for the crowd? And again, I'd like to take a crack at this one. And I would say, look, we mentioned it in a previous question where we're like, traffic sort of looks like what you would think TV looks like. So yeah, in the evening there's more people on whatnot because they're not at work. In the weekends there's more because they're not at work. It's like it's like top entertainment time. It's pretty closely related. Like, so if you think about television, when the most people on TV, it's also like pretty similar to when the most people are on whatnot or any other entertainment thing right out there. I like to say like the best time for you to go live is the best time for you to go live. In other words, like when you have the headspace, when you have the peace and quiet, when you don't have other things on your mind, when you're free to really be present and do a show, like that's probably the best time for you to go live, right? It's not, there's no like quick and dirty like answer, like it's 9 p.m. on Saturday, that is not the answer. And then when you do find a time that works for you, again, apply that consistency. Like again, for me, it's 12 p.m. on Saturday. It's what I got used to. It's what my followers got used to. It's just what works well in my schedule. I can't do it during the week. I work out whatnot. Like I got to, like Sundays, I prefer to do other things. And so like, it's like what works for you. And then just make sure that your schedule is pretty wide open for you to be fully present. Would you agree with that, Ethan?
Yeah, definitely. I definitely would say that like try not to schedule your streams about like when you think it would be best to stream, like kind of what Kenny was saying. Like whenever is the best time for you to stream, I would stream at that time. And then it's kind of like to piggyback off that. Like if you think the best time for you to stream is like let's just say like Monday at 12 p.m. and you're like, there's like no traffic on the app, like there's not that many buyers, like how I would look at that is like using like the TV reference is like you just have to be the most entertaining stream, right? Like just strive for that, and however many buyers are on the app, like they will migrate to your stream, especially like if there's not a lot of sellers on because they think no one's on at this time, so they don't hop on. And if you hop on, like then you're getting like an entirely new like customer base for that specific time. And if you're consistent with that, like then you could just build off like, oh, every Monday 12 p.m. like
Yep.
that, you know.
I
Yeah.
love it. That's a great answer. Last question we'll take here is from Just Dan 70. He's asking, what is the best way to get involved in platform wide events like the recent Labubu Mania event we had over the weekend? And again, this is like one of those where, just keep your eye out for important emails that come from Whatnot. If you unsubscribed to Whatnot emails, you're not going to get these, right? So if you want to resubscribe, you could write into support and ask them to resubscribe you to Whatnot emails. And that's how we communicate those. I do believe that we are working on some really cool things in app that will be like in Seller Hub. So like for your category, if there's an upcoming on platform event and it's in your category, we'll probably show you a little banner where you could literally click in the app, see that in the app, and then schedule your show from there. So like we're getting a little bit more sophisticated with how we do that, and that's going to be really cool. I've seen what that looks like, and it's actually really sick. But for now, it's like through marketing emails. So again, if you haven't, if you've unsubscribed, go ahead and send a support at whatnot.com an email and say, hey, can you please, my username is such and such. Can you please resubscribe me to your marketing emails? And they'll do that for you. And so you can get them there. But look, we're at an hour. Ethan, I think, what I love most about this conversation is just how open you are about your success on Whatnot. I think it's a testament to the power of community on this app, right? It's like, again, we're in early days. This is like day one at Whatnot still. And there's plenty of room for everybody to succeed on this platform. And so I really feel like you embrace that mentality. And I thank you for it. Like, I think you were very honest and very, very transparent about your experience. And I hope, chat, if you enjoyed it, please show some love for Ethan for taking time to share his experience here. And so, Ethan, with that, we're gonna raid actually your account. So I think,
Oh,
yeah, because I want chat. If you're curious how they run their shows, well, I'm gonna show you. We're gonna do it. We're gonna raid Animatasia. Drop them a follow. Of course, you don't have to buy anything. Chat, just like Ethan said, pull up, have a good time. If you see something you're like, go for it. But of course, really, we just wanted to give you a taste of kind of what he was saying, but like in action. And so, Ethan, thank you so much for your time, man.
Thank you, Kenny. Thank you for inviting me, and to everyone in the chat, like good luck on your whatnot journey. If you guys have any questions, like feel free to always like message the Animatasia or Animatasia Remix account. I'd be more than happy to have a conversation with you guys about it. So yeah, thank you, Kenny.
Thank you, Ethan. Keep up the great work and congrats on all of the success.
Awesome. Bye bye.
All right, here we go, chat.
Go.